Pernell Roberts, best known for his role as Adam Cartwright on Bonanza, made a shocking decision to leave the hit show after 6 seasons. While Bonanza was immensely popular and made him a household name, Roberts found himself increasingly dissatisfied with the direction the show was taking. Despite the fame and financial success, Roberts, a seasoned theater actor, felt stifled by the limitations of television and the lack of meaningful character development. His growing frustration with the commercial nature of the industry, coupled with his desire for more artistic freedom, led him to make the bold choice to walk away from Bonanza. But there was much more beneath the surface of his departure. Early life and musical background. Pernell Roberts was born on May 18, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia, a small town that would serve as the starting point of his remarkable career. His interest in the arts began at an early age, and it was clear from the outset that he had a deep affinity for music and performance. Before becoming a household name, Roberts developed a rich musical background that would influence his future endeavors. In his early career, he was involved in musical theater, honing his skills on stage, where he gained invaluable experience performing in operas and ballets. Pernell's involvement in music went beyond just being an actor. He was trained as a classically trained singer with a deep baritone voice, and this skill would later serve him well on Bonanza. While other members of the cast showcased their talents in different ways, it was Roberts who stood out with his impressive vocal abilities. At one point, while working on Bonanza, Roberts recorded a folk album titled "Come All Ye Fair and Tender Ladies." This album, featuring a collection of soft lyrical tunes, was highly praised and remains one of the rare records of his music career. The album, now a piece of television history, includes classic songs such as "They Call the Wind Maria" and "A Rambling Boy," demonstrating Roberts' versatility and passion for music. This rich musical background made him stand out, not just as an actor, but as an individual with a diverse and well-rounded career. His talents as a singer and performer shaped his future, but the conflict between his love for serious theater and his experiences on television would come to define much of his career. Theater and early career. Before making his mark on television, Roberts had an impressive career in the world of theater. He performed in numerous productions, displaying his ability to tackle complex roles. One of his most notable performances was in Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, where he showcased his impressive command of language and acting technique. Roberts's Shakespearean experience, along with his background in opera and ballet, made him an ideal fit for the role of Adam Cartwright, but it also led to a conflict that would plague his career in television. In addition to his Shakespearean performances, Roberts also starred in several Broadway and off-Broadway productions, including the play The Lovers, which featured Joanne Woodward. His expertise in classical acting gave him the gravitas and poise needed to take on roles that required intense emotional depth and range, making his move to Bonanza seem like a natural extension of his acting trajectory. Yet, despite his natural fit for the role, Roberts's heart remained in the theater, a passion that would eventually lead to his dissatisfaction with his television work. Bonanza, the role of a lifetime. In 1959, Roberts was cast as Adam Cartwright, the eldest of the 3 Cartwright sons, on the new NBC Western series Bonanza. The show, which quickly became a television staple, was set in the American West and centered around the Cartwright family, who owned the sprawling Ponderosa Ranch. As the eldest son, Adam was portrayed as the intellectual and sensitive member of the family, often taking on leadership roles and offering wisdom to his younger brothers, Hoss and Little Joe. The role suited Roberts' background in Shakespeare and musical theater, as he was tasked with portraying a character who was both complex and deeply moral. Though Bonanza became one of the most popular and long-running TV shows of its era, Roberts' time on the series was not without friction. While the show was hugely successful, with audiences flocking to watch the Cartwrights' weekly adventures, Roberts often found himself at odds with the show's direction and the demands of television. Unlike his co-stars, who were more content with the steady income and popularity that the show brought, Roberts had deeper ambitions. He viewed television as a step backward from the serious acting he had done in theatre and resented the limitations the medium imposed on his work. Over time, this dissatisfaction grew. Creative frustrations and disagreements with NBC. Roberts' primary source of income during his time on Bonanza came from his role as Adam Cartwright, and while many would have considered the financial rewards to be a significant benefit, Roberts was less concerned with money. His paycheck, which at its peak was around $10,000 per episode, was substantial, and by the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $10 million. However, money was never his main focus. What troubled Roberts was the creative limitations he faced, both in his role as Adam Cartwright and in his frustrations with the network executives at NBC. In particular, Roberts had issues with the lack of character development on the show. He found it unrealistic that Adam, a grown man, continued to seek approval from his father, Ben Cartwright, played by Lorne Greene. The portrayal of the father-son dynamic seemed stilted and repetitive to him, and he felt that the show failed to live up to its promise of meaningful character exploration. He famously compared his involvement in Bonanza to a renowned violinist playing in a pop orchestra, an analogy that encapsulated his feelings of being out of place. Pernell Roberts and the Civil Rights Movement. Pernell Roberts was not only an actor, but also a man of strong personal values. He was deeply involved in the civil rights movement and used his public platform to advocate for change. In 1965, he joined the Selma to Montgomery marches led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., standing side by side with other activists who sought to bring about racial equality in the United States. This alignment with civil rights causes was also evident in his on-set actions. He openly criticized Bonanza for its lack of racial diversity, particularly the practice of casting white actors in Native American roles. Roberts proposed storylines that would have introduced more diversity, such as having his character, Adam, marry a Native American woman played by a black actress. But these ideas were quickly rejected by the producers. Roberts's strong stance on these issues was often met with resistance from the network and his fellow cast members. He was frustrated by the lack of support for his efforts to address racial inequality, but his resolve remained steadfast. He continued to speak out against the injustices he saw, and his involvement in the civil rights movement further solidified his position as a man who cared more about principle than fame or fortune. Leaving Bonanza, a bold decision. Despite the show's immense popularity, Roberts' dissatisfaction reached a breaking point. After 6 seasons, he made the bold decision to leave Bonanza before the start of its 7th season. His departure shocked both fans and co-stars, as he was seen as one of the central pillars of the show. However, for Roberts, it was a necessary step. He cited the stifling nature of his role and the compromises he had to make in order to appease the studio executives as the primary reasons for his exit. His belief that television was focused too much on profit and shallow entertainment rather than its potential to educate and inform drove him to leave. Lorne Greene, his on-screen father, tried to persuade Roberts to stay for a few more seasons to secure financial stability, but Roberts was resolute. He felt that his personal and professional needs were not being met, and that his talents were being wasted on a show that was more concerned with pleasing advertisers than fostering meaningful artistic work. Ultimately, Roberts walked away from Bonanza, much to the chagrin of his co-stars, but he remained true to his own beliefs and convictions. Return to television. Trapper John MD. After leaving Bonanza, Roberts' relationship with television remained complicated. He returned to the small screen in the 1970s, this time in the medical drama Trapper John MD, where he played the title role. Unlike his experience on Bonanza, Roberts found a renewed sense of purpose and satisfaction in his work on Trapper John. The show allowed him to collaborate with talented people whom he respected, and it marked a shift in his perception of television. While Roberts had once been vocal about his disdain for the medium, he found that working with the right people made all the difference. The show's success and the positive environment on set allowed him to flourish in a way that Bonanza had not. Personal life and tragedy. Roberts' personal life was as complex and challenging as his professional career. He was married several times throughout his life, to Vera Mai, Judith Lebrecht, Cara Nack, and finally, Eleanor Criswell in 1997. His first marriage, to Vera Mai, produced a son, Jonathan Christopher Roberts, known as Chris. Tragically, Chris died in 1989 in a motorcycle accident, a loss that weighed heavily on Roberts for the rest of his life. The pain of losing his son was one of the most devastating experiences of Roberts' life, and it colored much of his personal and professional decisions thereafter. The final years and legacy. Pernell Roberts passed away on January 24, 2010, after a battle with pancreatic cancer. His death marked the end of an era, as he was the last surviving member of the original Bonanza cast. Over the years, Roberts had seen all of his co-stars pass away, including Lorne Greene, Dan Blocker, and Michael Landon. Despite his departure from the show, Roberts always respected Bonanza and its potential. He attended the funerals of his fellow cast members and spoke fondly of the time they spent together, even though he had criticized the show throughout his career. His death at the age of 81 was a bittersweet moment for many fans, as it signified the end of an era in American television. His legacy, both as an actor and as a passionate advocate for civil rights, continues to resonate with fans and admirers of his work. Through his time on Bonanza, his involvement in social justice movements, and his commitment to his craft, Pernell Roberts will always be remembered as a man of principle, integrity, and immense talent. Reflection and impact. Pernell Roberts' legacy is multifaceted. He will always be remembered for his role as Adam Cartwright, but his contributions to the world of acting and social justice extend far beyond that. His commitment to artistic integrity, his advocacy for diversity and equality, and his pursuit of meaningful work serve as an inspiration for future generations of actors and activists alike. Roberts' story is one of a man who was not afraid to speak out, to challenge the status quo, and to fight for what he believed in. His life and career were marked by both triumphs and struggles, but through it all, he remained true to himself, a remarkable man whose legacy endures.